Officer Scott had served on the police force for over 10 years. He believed in his job, in protecting the community, and thought he understood the people he was sworn to serve. But one afternoon changed everything. That day, Scott responded to a call about a suspected theft at a local convenience store. When he arrived, he found a young black teenager named Jaden standing near the counter. Nervous but composed. Scott's training kicked in, and he approached with suspicion, asking questions and watching for signs of guilt. But there was nothing. No stolen goods, no evidence. Only assumptions and a young man trying to keep his dignity. Scott released Jaden without incident, but the encounter haunted him. It wasn't guilt exactly, but a nagging feeling, a question he couldn't shake. What if I judged him unfairly? What if I'd been seeing people like Jaden through a distorted lens all this time? That night, Scott lay awake, replaying the moment again and again. The look in Jaden's eyes stayed with him. The pain of being seen as a suspect first, a person second. For the first time, Scott wondered if his years on the force had made him blind to something essential. The next morning, determined to make a change, Scott walked into the police station with a new resolve. He went straight to his captain's office and shared what he had learned from that single encounter. He spoke passionately about the need for more than enforcement. That real change required building understanding, connection, and trust. To Scott's surprise, the captain listened closely and agreed to support a new community program. Resources were offered, and a plan began to take shape. Scott knew that this program couldn't succeed with just him at the helm. It needed voices from the community, especially voices like Jaden's, the young man whose experience had opened Scott's eyes. Through a mutual contact, Scott found Jaden's number and nervously called him. When Jaden answered, his tone was cautious, wary even. "Why me?" he asked simply. Scott hesitated but then answered honestly, "Because you helped me see what I hadn't before. I think others need to hear your story, and I need to learn from you. This program isn't about officers talking at people. It's about real conversations and real change. I hope you'll help make that happen." After a long pause, Jaden agreed but made one thing clear. "I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the next kid who might walk into that store and be treated the way I was." Together, they launched the program they named Bridges. It was designed to build connections between police officers and the community, especially the young people who often felt unseen or mistrusted. The first event was held in a modest community center, a place known to many locals but never quite a site of healing or hope. Until now. Scott arrived early, unsure if anyone would come. Slowly, familiar faces trickled in, some wary, some hopeful, all curious. Jaden stood and shared his story, his voice steady, raw, and honest. He recounted the day Scott had met him at the store, the assumptions he faced, and the pain of being judged without cause. Scott watched as some officers shifted uncomfortably, while others seemed moved, absorbing the truth in Jaden's words. Then community members took their turn, an elderly man sharing decades of mistrust, a mother describing her fears for her son, a young woman speaking about the pressure of always having to prove her innocence. When it was time for officers to respond, Scott stepped forward. He didn't defend or explain. Instead, he apologized. To Jaden, to the community. He promised to listen, to learn, and to do better. The room shifted. There was no instant forgiveness, no magical solution. But a foundation was laid, one of respect, honesty, and the willingness to change. Over the coming months, Bridges grew. Officers took part in workshops designed to challenge their assumptions, including a walk-in-my-shoes simulation where they experienced scenarios that many young people of color face daily, being followed in stores, questioned unfairly, or assumed guilty. The discomfort some officers felt turned into realization. They returned to their duties with a new perspective, a deeper empathy for the people they served. Complaints about profiling decreased. Trust began to build, slowly, surely, authentically. Scott became more than an officer in uniform. He became a familiar face in the neighborhood, a friend, a learner, an ally. Jaden grew too, emerging as a quiet leader, inspiring others to speak their truths. Their partnership deepened into friendship, rooted in mutual respect and a shared vision for a better future. At an annual community gathering, Scott spoke openly about his journey, the mistakes he'd made and the lessons he'd learned. He credited Jaden for opening his eyes and for teaching him that change starts within. Change isn't something we ask of others, Scott said. It's something